Good evening. Welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk with Mary Grace. We are live. It is Monday. Is it Monday? No, it's Tuesday. Tuesday. Wow, time flies. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, and at some point we'll be live on CloudHub. So it's good to have everybody here. Thank you for being here. Please share this. This is a live broadcast. We are live streaming. I appreciate everybody who is sharing on different platforms. Let me know when you get here on Facebook so I can see you in the chat. Please say hello on Facebook and on YouTube. Okay. This is a live. This is my daily, bi-daily, every other day show that I do, and so we're going to be talking about the election. We're going to be talking about some of the finer points of what's going on, and hopefully it will help enlighten you. Hopefully it will give you some refreshing and some hope about what's going on. I know there people have a lot of questions, and it's a little bit crazy right now what's happening. It's all good though, and so I do want to encourage you about that. Where are my Facebook people? Where are you? Okay, um, so my cat is here today. He's playing with the top from a bottle, so that's the noise you hear. Barley is over there. Okay, good to see everybody. Now, I want to jump into a little bit of business, a couple of orders of business. It's always something. Hey, Dana. Um, okay, so I might have to get that from him. Hold on, guys. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Okay. Sorry. We're working out the logistics of having a kitten when we go live. Okay. Thank you for your patience. We're back after that little break. All right. So, a couple of things. I want to start by asking you to follow my channel, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Facebook, and also follow on Periscope. So, whatever platform you're on, and you can find me at Mary Grace Media. If you're confused about how to find the links, go to marygracemedia.com and you can click on my social media links right there on the website. Okay, so the what was I going to tell you? Oh, on Facebook, this is what I wanted to ask you on Facebook. If you belong to groups on Facebook, I would like for you to share the broadcast into your groups. So, for example, I belong to a group called Women for Trump, and you can just when you share, there's an option for copying the link, and then you can go to your group and paste it into a comment, not a comment, a post in your group, and that gets it to more people. And so we're trying to get the word out. I've had people email me and tell me that they're sharing my broadcast and introducing me to other friends, and so that is one way to do that, and you can reach a lot of people at once. And so I do appreciate everybody who is doing that. I'm getting a lot of calls, I'm getting a lot of questions, I'm getting a lot of emails about what the heck is going on and how do we navigate the situation as it stands. And hopefully I've been able to help some of you. I'm not I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a constitutional scholar. We have a lot of people who are quite capable in that area. I'm just good at getting information and breaking it down and communicating it pretty simply to people. And so that's where I think um, that's kind of my wheelhouse. And somebody asked me the other day, "What's my background? How is it that I know what I know?" It really is just I just I guess I'm an information junkie, and I love to read. I love um, figuring things out beyond what's on the surface. I was the kid that read the encyclopedia when I was little. That was me, and so even though I wasn't a big reader, I did read the encyclopedia. So that's just kind of the way my brain works. And I like to see patterns in things. I like to see the bigger picture, and I sort of pull threads together. And there's a lot of wisdom that I get from God. And so that's how I know what I know. I don't have super inside track to DC, or anything like that. So that's my background. I do have a master's in education. I did teach for 12 years. I do have Holy Spirit. Yeah, I did teach for 12 years. And so that's part of it, I think. And I taught young kids. I taught anywhere, everywhere from kindergarten all the way to college, actually. And that's part of my background. The other thing I think that really helps me give you the perspective that I give you, I feel like I'm giving my little resume right here. But one thing that helps is that I traveled quite a bit. And the interesting thing is that I didn't travel. I didn't start traveling until I was in my 30s. And so I think it helped because I was already I was already finished with college. I had already worked a little bit, and I didn't do a semester abroad when I was undergrad. I actually did it when I was in grad school, and that's when I was getting my master's in education. And so I went to Italy, I went to Rome, and I taught at a Catholic school. And so every experience that I had just really opened my eyes to the world. I traveled through Italy all by myself. It was my first trip abroad. I had just learned Italian by listening to cassette tapes in the car. And so I just have always been a little bit adventurous. And so, after that happened, I was really hooked on Europe. And after I got my master's and my teaching, I went and taught overseas again in Switzerland. And then I traveled a ton when I was there. One of my trips that I did when I lived in Switzerland was I went to Africa. And, and then I decided to move to Africa. And I taught in South Africa, in Cape Town, for a year. And so the result is that I ended up, well, I learned to surf when I was in Africa, so that's one thing. And that actually opened the door for me to do other things like move to Hawaii. I went to Bali. I did a surf trip in Bali. I spent a week on a surf boat in Bali in the Indian Ocean. And so I've done a lot of really interesting things, but it's also given me the ability to see how the world works. I've seen the perspective of other cultures. I've seen the perspective of other religions. I've been in places where uh, you literally had to have permission from the religious leaders of the area to set foot onto into the town, or onto the island in this case. Um, it was a predominantly Muslim area in Indonesia, and so we had to have permission from the mullahs even to anchor our boat. And so it's just it gives you a different perspective about what is really going on out there. And a lot of times when people tell you that America is a bad place, they're saying it either because they've been overseas and they have been victims of um, uh, they've been uh, they've been victims of Stockholm syndrome, and they've had they've been brainwashed to believe that America is a bad place, or they've actually never really traveled, and so they don't understand what is really at stake in our country. Um, because the truth is, every other country in the world, just about, is governed by some type of surveillance mechanism. You don't have freedom of speech. You don't have a Second Amendment. You don't have a constitution like we have in the United States of America. And that's not saying that every country is bad. I loved living in Switzerland. It was amazing. Um, I loved living in Africa, in South Africa. That was kind of scary, but you know, it. it all comes back to what is it that we have here in the United States of America, and why is this the best country in the world? Uh, why is it that um, that people still risk their lives to come to this country, to be American, to get what it is that we have to offer? Why is that? How come all of these people who continually tell you that America is horrible and that we're inherently racist and that our country is an embarrassment and a laughing stock to the world, why is it that um, why is it that we are the ones that everyone wants to be? Why is it that everyone wants access to our president, to our government, to our money, to our system of education, to our infrastructure? Why is it that? Because America is the greatest country in the world. And, when you're living and traveling abroad, you really see that. And, I can tell you from firsthand experience, especially because I traveled alone a lot, that, when you're overseas and you're speaking a different language every single day and you're navigating a new culture every single day, one of the most beautiful sights and sounds is when you see an American flag and you hear people speaking English in your native tongue, in your native accent. That's just, it makes you want to cry. And people don't get that. They just don't get it. And so the people who are out there burning our flag and trying to convince you that America needs to be changed fundamentally, um, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand what it is that's at stake. And so, Praying Medic tweeted out today, and he said, if I seem a little bit more salty than usual, it's because I am, and it's because I understand more now than ever that we are at war and that our way of life is being threatened. And I've talked about that in the show pretty extensively. And I really can't stress enough that what you're seeing happen and what we've been witnessing in the last week is a coup. That these people who are doing what they're doing and pretending that they're not are absolutely want to take over your country, and they want to destroy you. They want to destroy your way of life. They want to destroy everything that you hold dear. They want this country to be a third world country. They want to decimate and destroy the middle class. So just make no mistake. If you if you don't believe me, look at what's happening with these lockdowns. Who is it hurting the most? It's not hurting corporate America. Um, it is not hurting corporate America. It's hurting the middle class. It's hurting the poor, and it's intended to drive more people into poverty. And so as people start to wake up and see this, um, I think that it's very powerful, and it's putting people in a position of power. And one thing that I've noticed that's really interesting is that I thought that COVID, I thought COVID would really be the massive red pill that people needed to understand what's at stake and what's happening to them. It turns out that this election is much more of that. I have people calling me and getting that they're really concerned because they're seeing what's happening, and they're seeing it happen before their very eyes, and they they're starting to realize that they're being gaslit. Because when you look at the president's rallies, when you look at the massive crowds that he has had, when you put together all of the data and the circumstantial evidence and the groundswell of support that this president has, when you see all of that, and then you watch the election and you see the numbers going up, and then the media is telling you that that's not what you're seeing. That's the definition of gaslighting. And you know, people who are paying attention, they have this sick feeling in their pit of their stomach, and they're just they're just going, wait a minute. you know for example, in Virginia, the 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 graphic that was put up by Politico, um the president was leading. He had like 60%. Biden had like 30% of the vote, and the check mark was on Biden's name. And so the media was literally telling you that what you were seeing wasn't real, right? Um, so it's just, I think that this is really, it's like a bridge too far, because at least, with COVID, they told us certain things. They told us certain things that we weren't sure when they told us. Like, we believed them when they first told us this is a deadly virus. This can be, we could have 2.2 million people killed, right? That kind of thing. But we didn't have a baseline by which to gauge it. And so people just sort of said, okay, if this is what we need to do, we're going to help our fellow man, and we're going to lock down. Okay. And it was a pretty easy, it was a pretty easy inroad for them, because they because it wasn't like we saw one thing happening, and then they were telling us another. Okay. And it wasn't until people started to realize, wait a minute, people aren't dropping dead around me, and the hospitals aren't full and overrun and things like that. It wasn't an initial, we didn't realize the initial mind games that they were playing. Okay. We got it eventually. A lot of people still haven't, though. But with the election, it's harder for a lot of people, because we're seeing it play out in real time. Okay. um so that's what was going on. Okay. And so it's interesting to watch, because I'm watching people who are really getting hit. They're getting hit really hard with the reality that they've been lied to for a long time, right? um and so, in a way, I welcome this. In a way, I welcome it, because people really do need to wake up, and they really do need to understand that this is that the alternative is communism. That everything that we know and have known and understood to be the American way will disappear forever. There's no getting it back. And so that's what I'm seeing. And it's so important that people understand this. And one of the outcomes of this right now too, and this is where we really need a healing in our nation. And the left is telling us that they want to all get along now, and they want healing. And that's another part of the gaslighting, is that they've spent the last 4 years telling us that we're disgusting and stupid and backwards and deplorable. And that's the equivalent of you know just being beaten. Right? I mean, it's like we've been like in a way, they've been the abuser. And now they're coming and telling us that we can all get along. And they're putting it on us and saying, hey, you guys, you really should get along. And if we don't want to, then we're the one with the problem. That's another part of the manipulation. It's emotional blackmail. And so it's it's very interesting to see. um, don't fall for it because what's going to happen when they find out that their candidate didn't really win is that they're going to manifest even more extreme. It's going to be like literal wailing and gnashing of teeth. I hate to say that, but that's going to happen. I do believe that some people are going to be suicidal. I do believe that some people are going to need extensive therapy and deliverance from the delusion that they've been living under and from the shock of what's going to happen. Now, I hope that people do come around. But the other thing that we really need to understand is that we need to be mindful of the people who are waking up now, because it's a lonely journey, especially if you've been on the left. Uh, that um, when you're in one lifestyle for so long, it's whether you're an alcoholic, whether you're an abuser, whether you've been in an abusive relationship, when you make a change, when you make a drastic change like that, and you decide to walk away from that lifestyle, it's extremely difficult because the people that are closest to you don't often want to come with you. And so you really have to kind of reinvent yourself. And that's something that happened, for example, the walk away movement, walk away campaign, is something that has been very, very helpful for people. And I wanted to mention that because if you have friends and family members who are waking up and they're experiencing just the shock and loneliness being um, of being alone in this journey, direct them to walk away, direct them to the groups on Facebook for walk away. There are state groups, there are regional groups. Okay, somebody's telling me my volume is low. Can we get a check on this? Because only a couple of people are telling me that. And if that's the case, it's probably your device and you may need to put in a headset. Can we get a check? Um, are we good? Okay, if you already told me it's low, don't tell me again. I want input from new people. Uh, how are we on the volume? Okay. Yeah, I think that it may be your device. So sometimes it happens. You may need to put in you may need to put in, hold on a second. Let me try that. Is that any better? Hold on. Okay. Is that any better? Are we okay? I had to reset a couple of things yesterday after my thing froze. Okay, so let's get back on track here. What I was going to talk about was just the fact that as people wake up, they need a place to go. They need help. They need compassion. Everybody's coming into this journey in a different way. And so, as you're helping them, as you're talking to them, as you're showing them, um, you definitely direct them to walk away on Facebook, walkawaycampaign.com. I think, hold on a second. I let me just double check the URL. Yeah, walkawaycampaign.com. That is founded by Brandon Strock. He's a friend of mine, and he has done an incredible job of just really gathering and supporting people who are new to this movement. And again, the Facebook groups, some of you are on Facebook, that's your choice, but the Facebook groups that they have are really a good place to gather, especially if you're living in a community where you don't have that one-on-one, in-person support. So I wanted to mention that. Okay. Now, I know you guys are wanting to hear election details specifically. There's one thing that has come up about with regard to election fraud. I talked to you yesterday about the fact that I believe the tactic of the Trump campaign is to try to get is to try to drill down at the Supreme Court level to what is going on uh, with the state legislatures and the changes that a lot of them made at the last minute. And I think that if you go back and watch my broadcast from yesterday, you'll get a good review of what is going on. I feel like I'm pretty right on in that, and in that we're trying to get this straightened out at the Supreme Court level so that it will really it will settle the question of whether a governor or a secretary of state or other people outside of the state legislature can change election laws. The Constitution says that it's that the state legislature does it. And so, what I was telling you yesterday is that Jay Sekulow and Trump's other attorneys are going to really push to have the Supreme Court rule that these states acted unconstitutionally. Now, there is a question about what will happen in that case. Somebody was asking me, okay, well, what happens to the ballots that came in after 8 p.m.? Like, how do they figure it out? All right. And that is a good decision. I mean, that's a good question because um, the Supreme, like for example, the law in Pennsylvania before the governor and the Secretary of State monkeyed with it was, and the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania before they monkeyed with it, it was that anything that came in after 8 p.m. on election day could not count. But the real question is, where did they, how do they separate those ballots? Because Justice Alito didn't tell them to stop and separate the ballots until Friday. So that's a really uh, big question, right? So if anybody knows, let me know. Um, yeah, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. I have a feeling that part of that will come down to like forensic analysis, that, they're technically you're supposed to know which ones are mail-in ballots. Um, but the question is, if they're telling us, for example, that 100,000 of the votes that they counted on Thursday or on Wednesday were mail-in ballots, then they should be able to segregate those. Okay. Yeah. So if they're all mixed in, I mean, obviously, one way to tell is if the ballot is folded, right? So if they told us that they didn't count any mail-in ballots until Wednesday, um, then obviously those ballots wouldn't count, for example, that kind of thing. So that's something that we're going to have to leave to the experts, and that's why um, Trump has the Trump team has like 46,000 lawyers. Did you know that? Um, there might be a timestamp. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so there's probably some kind of timestamp. Yeah, I think there is. That's a good one. Anyway, but the Trump campaign has 46,000 lawyers in the swing states. I don't know if you know that. I forgot to tell you yesterday. A lot of them are volunteer. Um, but it's 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 comforting, and it's really good to know and remember that the campaign has been preparing for this for about a year and a half or more. And so that's just something that I wanted you to know, that a lot of the people that have been observing and that have been gathering data and information, a lot of those people are lawyers. And so that's something that maybe is just a little, that's a little insider tip, tidbit. Okay. Um, yeah. And so, you know, on the one hand, we have volunteers, from all walks of life, who are, accountants, teachers, auditors, that kind of thing. Um, but on the other hand, we actually have attorneys who signed up to do exactly what they're doing, and and they know exactly what to look for. Okay. Um, and this is kind of interesting. So I was speaking of attorneys. We know that we know that the Biden team has an army of attorneys too, as well, obviously. Um, but I've noticed a few things that are going on with the. I've noticed a few issues that are telling me that the that the Biden camp doesn't actually believe that they have a solid win. And again, and so this is where my intuition comes in. This is where I just notice patterns and things like that. So one of the things that I've noticed since about Friday is that the troll activity on Twitter and on Periscope has increased a lot. And I've noticed over the years that when the left is feeling threatened, when they don't actually believe they're winning something, that they will send out the most vicious, vile trolls. And you saw that in my broadcast. You saw that like on Saturday when I was doing and Friday when I was doing my live broadcast. We had some really, nasty, nasty trolls, and so that's it's kind of demonic. And so I've seen that. The other thing that I've seen is that all of those buildings that were boarded up in the cities, okay? All the buildings that were boarded up, thank you for the super hearts. All of those buildings are still boarded up. And you may have noticed that the Trump supporters are not burning things down, are they? They're not. We don't do that, okay? Um, and so if it was a true win and they didn't think that they had any reason to be sad or upset, why wouldn't they take um, the boards off why wouldn't they, uncover the windows? Like they know something is coming. They're preparing for violence. It's not going to come from us. We're not the ones tearing things up and burning things down. We just don't do that. I mean, if we were going to do it, we would have done it by now. Do you agree? So that's one sign. Another sign is that that they're pushing pretty hard. They're pushing pretty hard to really uh, um, what do you call it? To bolster the idea of the president elect, right? I mean, they're talking about his transition, and they're talking about his, having a dog in the White House again, and things like that. Like they're trying to give you the fairy tale story, and they're trying to keep this narrative going, but at the same time, they're having a hard time because the wheels are falling off. Like you can see it in mainstream media that some of the people are having a hard time understanding where they are in the script. And so we've seen like some glitches in the matrix. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've put a few things on Twitter, right? Where it's like, well, there was one broadcaster on Fox, and it was a panel, and one of the people on the panel said, one of the people on the panel was saying, that it hasn't been decided yet, and then the anchor said, she was talking to him and saying, wait, we already called it, we already called it, we already called it, right? And so they didn't have they didn't have their talking points settled before they went on the show. So that was kind of interesting, and we've seen a couple of things like that. Yeah, so they're trying to push this idea that Trump is refusing to have to allow them access to do the transition. I mean, all these things. But the truth is, everything that Trump is doing is 100% legal. There is no Biden presidency. There's not, none of these states have been certified, and so Trump is completely within his rights and actually within his duty as the commander in chief and as the chief executive. This is important to understand. The president is doing his duty to uh, to follow the Constitution and to protect the American people and to protect our national security. That's his number one duty. And so remember, this is a coup. And so the president, if he were to concede, he would actually be in, it would be a dereliction of duty. Do you understand that? And so anybody telling you the opposite, anybody telling you that Trump should concede, that he should lose gracefully, that he should just bow out, um, that they don't understand how things work. They don't know the law. And so, Millie, I saw your comment. I'm sorry you can't see the chat. So just keep that in mind. The president knows exactly what the law is, and the people on Biden's team also know the law. And so anything that they're telling you to the contrary is just a big fat lie. They know exactly how this works. They know that the election is not certified. They know that the electors have to actually go through the process of choosing the president. And so the media is relying on the ignorance of the American people. And it's sad, it's a travesty that people don't understand that the media doesn't choose the president and that they don't declare the president. Um, and so, now we are seeing, uh, we are seeing a couple of chinks in the armor. One, of course, is that the president fired Esper, okay, the Secretary of Defense. Um, and yeah, so that's something that we're seeing, and we're also seeing we're seeing the president's people standing strong. We're seeing the president's people coming out in support of him and making very bold statements. And I'll give you an example of that. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo today did a press conference, and he was talking about foreign policy, which is what that's his job, right? And he's been carrying on the business of foreign policy all this time. That doesn't stop, no matter what, no matter who's in office. And so he was talking about some amazing wins in foreign policy. And I recommend that you go and watch that speech. It was on C-SPAN. It was like 15 minutes long. And of course, the first question comes to him from the fake news media, and that is, um, they asked him, you know, what the State Department was doing to assist with the Biden transition. And Secretary of State Pompeo, I love him. He's so smart. He said the transition by the Trump team, um, the transition by the Trump team uh, is going smoothly, and the transition to Trump's next term is going just fine, right? Hold on just a second. I just want to check on something here. So, so Trump's cabinet, the closest people to the president, are are 100% in his corner and they are on message. And the president is telling all of the federal agencies to prepare their budgets for next year. So he is carrying on business as usual. Nothing in his nothing that he is doing is giving you any indication that he is going to be leaving the White House anytime soon. And so just, you just have to keep the faith, right? You cannot you cannot um, you cannot allow the noise to infiltrate your thoughts and to steal your peace. Yeah, it's funny the trolls started showing up as soon as I mentioned that. Very interesting. It's like they were unleashed. It's yeah. The people that run Periscope don't like us very much. Okay, so I wanted to let you guys know that there's a lot of activity happening in the legal front. There's a lot of messaging out there that's meant to distract you. There's a lot of innuendo. There's a lot of rumor mongering, and I've warned you about this, and I want to warn you again because it's very easy to go down these rabbit trails on social media and have people telling you that Mike Pence is deep state and that he's this or that and that he's not with the president, and I mean just like all this. Okay, just you need to shut that out and pay attention to what's true, right? Don't major on the minors. The president is doing what he needs to do. He's taking down the deep state. He has them right where he wants them. And if you don't believe me, look at what he has done uh, in the last couple of days, right? Again, here's a question. Thoughts on Kushner? Why are we asking about Kushner? Kushner is the son-in-law of the president. He's one of his closest advisors. So if you're hearing noise about people like that, if you're hearing little rumors, I'm just going to say you got to shut it out. You're allowing yourself to be manipulated. And so if you see the president come out and fire Kushner or something like that, then we can think about Kushner. But you're majoring on the minors when you go down these rabbit trails. All right. I'm trying to teach you to focus and think about what's important. These little rabbit trails are not important. So just focus. Okay. Don't run the car off the road trying to think about all these ridiculous little things. And remember that a lot of the people who are supposedly conservatives are the ones who plant these rumors to get you distracted. All right. The main thing, um, the main thing is to focus on keeping this president in office and to get through these lawsuits. And if you are, if you're not paying attention to that, if you're not focused on that, if you're not focused on helping the president, if you're not focused on helping with observation or recounts or calling your secretary of state or calling your state legislatures, like do the things that matter, um, then yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you could spend hours and hours and hours, going down, tracking down the rumor mills. Okay, I heard that Trump's attorneys leaked to the New York Times. Why? What does it matter? Okay, do you see what I'm saying? Like, here's one thing you have to understand about politics and about Washington, D.C., is that it's a giant soap opera. And there's going to be palace intrigue and rumors and innuendo no matter who's in office, no matter what's happening. So on January 21st, 2021, after the president gets in office, there's going to be other rumors, right? There's going to be rumors about his cabinet members. There's going to be rumors about family members. There's going to be all this. What does that matter? Okay. Focus, focus, focus. Look into my eyes. Focus on what matters. All right. Focus on bringing on praying for the president. Focus on real action that helps your country. Um, because if not, then you're no better than the people that are just tagging along, listening to the fake news media all day long. I mean, it doesn't help to get off of the media and off the news and then just go chasing down every rumor that you see on social media, especially Twitter. I mean, Twitter is the wild, wild west. There are people there who are specifically in place to distract you and to get you off of the main thing. So I know that was a little bit of a rant, but I need you to understand this. You're not helping your president when you engage in that kind of gossip. It doesn't help him. All right. Speaking of which, you have to understand who you're following and start to have discernment about who is on these platforms and how they work, especially on Twitter and Periscope. And so while we're on this topic, if you're on Periscope or Twitter, take 10 minutes, 5 minutes to learn how to put a profile picture on your account. It doesn't have to be your own picture. It has to be some kind of image so that you don't have a little egg and look like a troll. Take 5 minutes to learn how to change your at name on your profile so that it doesn't have 87 numbers at the end of your name. It's not that hard. You need to go into the settings. And if you go on YouTube, you can figure that out. All right. That helps other people to see that you're a real human being. Right. Um, yeah, you do need to be letting people know that Biden's not the president elect. It doesn't take that much for people to get it if you explain it to them pretty pretty plain in pretty plain English. It's civics, just civics. Okay. Now I want to jump really quickly into some election fraud. Uh, why do we need to do that? If you could explain, what are you asking about? Why do we need to do what? Um, missed John. There are two things that I want to tell you about. There's something going on um, that was kind of uncovered last night on Twitter, and um, there's an account on Twitter where um, hold on a second. Okay, there's an account on Twitter that I'm apparently I have to follow her back. Did she get banned? And they banned her. Wow. Okay, that's yeah, okay. So Praying Medic, if you're here, did you know they banned her, the girl that figured out Maidengate? So I guess she was over the target. So there was an account on Twitter that was posting about something very significant that everybody needs to know about. Do you know what I'm talking about? Maidengate, hashtag Maidengate. So there was a woman on Twitter who figured out one of the ways that they steal or that they do double votes. And this is very interesting. This is very interesting. Uh, she, her mom was registered under a different name in a different state, and she was under her married name or her maiden name or whichever. So this woman figured out that the Democrats have been using people's former names in other states to get them to vote. And so yeah, it's amazing. Have you guys seen that? So they suspended her account. And so here's an example. Okay. So if you've moved, women especially, if you've moved, um, and been, if you've been registered in other states, and if you have married or divorced or changed your name for any other reason, what the left is doing, this is amazing. It's crazy. They are literally uh, keeping your name on the voter rolls, and they're using your prior name in other states to vote. And so it's really important, if you're in that situation, or if you know somebody who's in that situation, who has had a name change or changed, moved from one state to the other, that you go and log in, that you go log into that state and put in your information, and see if you're still registered to vote in that state, and if you actually voted in that state. um, uh, if you voted in this election, because they've kept the names on the voter rolls. And have you noticed that, that how, um, okay, she has a website. All right, so somebitchtoldme.com. Okay, so she does have a website. um and that's her handle. Okay. um so this is crazy, because the Democrats have been have been resisting cleaning up voter rolls, because they cry voter suppression, voter suppression, voter suppression, right? That's not why they did it. That's not why they did it. For the same reason, for the same reason that they didn't, that they don't want voter ID. Because think about this: in the states without voter ID, um, in the states without voter ID, um, if somebody shows up to vote in your maiden name, which is still registered under your social security number, um, then they can. All right. On YouTube, it shows maidengate.com. Somebody just put the URL in here. Okay, so this is the URL that they put on Periscope. So somebody in YouTube typed this into the chat. It's um, HTTPS. So this is a website. Some bitch told me. It's SOME. Okay, the word bitch, told me, and then slash post slash ballot dash status dash check. Can somebody send that to me in an email? info@marygracemedia.com. Info@marygracemedia.com. Send me that URL and I'll put it up on Twitter. Isn't that interesting? So if you've ever been divorced, um, or married, or had a name change, or if you've been registered to vote in a different state, make sure, especially if you're getting text messages from that state, if you've gotten text messages during the election to make sure that you voted, that's a big red flag. And that's how she uncovered this, was because her mom got a message from her previous state, a text message saying, "Hey, Joni, um, how, have you voted yet?" And so her mom was like, "Wait a minute." Uh, her mom was like, "Wait a minute. I, um, I was voting in another state, apparently. Somebody just voted for me under my name and social security number in another state." And that's why it's so important to clean up the voter rolls. And that's something that Richard Grinnell has been talking about pretty strongly in Nevada. And that's something that is going to be a big part of what the president is doing to push to clean up voter rolls and to restore the integrity of our elections. That is not what they're doing right this minute, but it is something that it's coming. Tom Fitton has been working very hard to do this, but I think there's actually going to be like a nationwide push to do this. Um, okay, so somebody just said, "My mom got text for all of us, and she's in Pennsylvania. She got a text from my husband who never lived there." Okay, So I would actually go on that website and go on the go like you can go like check my vote in that state, and usually there's a way that you can do it. Okay. um yeah, it happened in Nevada because a lot of people live in California, and they actually like have an address in Nevada and things like that for taxes and stuff like that. So that's important to know. um and somebody just said that if I post that on Twitter, I'll probably get suspended. Yeah, I'll do it in a way that, I'll separate the words so that you have, like, when you guys, here's a clue about getting around the censorship on social media. When you post a link, a website address, if you see it on social media where it spells out the word dot, so like marygracemedia.com, DOT, that means that you're supposed to take that word dot and replace it with a period and make an actual web address. Most people get that, but a lot of you are new to this, so I'm just telling you this. All right? So when you see things like that, or when you see them spell out something like that with all of the words, or they leave spaces, it's up to you to copy it and then to paste it and to fix it. And what I recommend is that you copy it and then paste it onto like your notepad on your phone, and then get rid of all the spaces, and then put it all back together and make it a legit web address. All right. So don't come back and say the website didn't work. It's intended to get around the algorithms and the censorship. That's why people post things that way. Okay. So that's just a little, pro tip for new people who are just kind of getting into being a digital soldier. So just keep that in mind. So two things about being a digital soldier. Make sure that you have like a picture in your profile so that you don't look like a bot. And make sure that you actually have your username uh, that looks like a real username, and it's not a string of like 27 numbers, because that's a sure sign of an account that was created either by a machine or on the fly by somebody that didn't take the time to edit their account. Okay. So just those are two pointers. You don't have to use your real name on Twitter. You don't have to use your real name on Periscope, but take the effort to let people know that you're an actual human being. Okay. Now, somebody said that I have another troll. I haven't seen the troll. Here's another thing that I wanted to put out there about voter fraud, and that is this. I had a friend who told me years ago in Hawaii that the reason that Hawaii stays Democrat is because everybody is on uh, B. Davis. Yeah, I don't see that person. Okay. See, you see, is that a troll? B. Davis 27370092? Because that's what I mean. That they have a bunch of numbers in their account, but I don't see this person. So I'm not sure why. Oh, there they are. It's for show. Trump is upset. Okay, there we go. He's gone. But do you see his name? Do you see him with all the numbers if you're in Periscope? That's what I'm talking about. He didn't bother to give himself a legit looking username. All right. Now, okay, let me tell you something about unions, because I think this is another way that they're actually getting away with filling in fraudulent votes. All right. That is this. My friend told me that when people join a union in Hawaii, the reason that it's just predominantly that it's all Democrat, um, is that um, is that the unions, that everybody is union. Okay. And they vote Democrat because the unions vote for them. They turn over their voting ability to the unions, and the unions vote for them. Right. um, and so I think that's very interesting, because I just heard that the um, I just heard that they use the unions they activate the unions and bring them in large groups, because they're predominantly Democrat, to do the vote counting. And so I think that the other part of this is that they're actually using these union members to fill in the ballots for the other for the other for the other voters. So for all the union voters. And so if there's anybody that has any information about that, if there's anybody that knows or that's an insider that has specific information about that being done, get in touch with me. Um, I will, I will, we can get that information to the right place. Okay. Um, yeah. Somebody just said they think it happens in New Jersey, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of unions, who basically, yeah. So was Millie talking about how they actually do the votes for the union members, or that they get the unions, or that they have the union members counting the votes? Hold on just a minute, guys. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Um, yeah, so let me just clarify. Um, yeah, so somebody was saying that union members are brought in mass to basically run the count. All right. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that when people join unions, um, that the unions, this is in Hawaii. I was told that this happens in Hawaii, that the union actually votes for you. So I don't know if this is in coordination with the union members that are counting the votes. If they get your ballot and they go hand it to the other union members that are volunteers, and they fill in the ballots. But I think it could be another mass scam that they're doing, just like how they're getting the ballots for people in nursing homes. That's what Tucker was talking about last night. So if anybody has any information about this, if anybody has experienced this, get in touch with me, info@marygracemedia.com, because I think it warrants a closer look. Okay. So looks like we got a troll in here. So just that's something that I started thinking about when I heard Millie Weaver talking about these union members actually doing the vote counting, predominantly Democrat. Okay. And I'm not talking specifically about just Hawaii. I'm bringing up Hawaii because I was told that it happens in Hawaii. I'm talking about really the swing states, because there are a lot of unions in these states, especially in the Midwest, in the northern states. So I really think, because when I was hearing about the union members counting the votes, and I was hearing about the the union members, or the nursing homes, where they just ordered all of these absentee ballots in mass for people in the nursing homes, it just got me thinking. I wonder if that's how they do this. Like, they literally just take the votes, they get the ballots for the union members, and vote for them. It would be a very easy scam to run. I think they're really doing it. So send me a message, info@marygracemedia.com, if you are aware of that specific thing happening. All right. Now, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it may not be happening at your at your place in your union or your family member, but it's got to be happening somewhere. And it could literally be thousands, thousands of votes, okay, in any given county or state, and especially the swing states. So Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, all these places that have big unions, that have a big union presence, even New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, like these places. Imagine how many people could be, how many people could actually be have their unions voting for them. It's crazy. All right, so I have to sign off. I'm going to be back live. Yeah, so teachers unions, anywhere that there's a union, okay? And I think they tell you how to vote, all right? If you didn't get a chance to listen to Mitch McConnell's speech from the Senate floor yesterday, it is one of the best speeches I've ever heard. He really let the Democrats have it, and I wanted for you to listen to it. Um, I'm going to tweet it out again. It's going to be on Twitter. Um, I'm going to play just the beginning of it for you because it's so powerful, and it was on C-SPAN. But I just really want you guys to go and find it and hear it. It was a short segment where he just really told the Democrats, like, they're not going to get their way. And so this is him, okay, on the floor of the Senate. I'm going to play the beginning of it but I'm not going to play the whole thing, but it's so good, and I want you to go find it. Okay, so
more broadly, Mr. President, let's not have any lectures, no lectures about how the president should immediately, cheerfully accept preliminary election results from the same characters who just spent 4 years refusing to accept the validity of the last election, and who insinuated that this one would be illegitimate too, if they lost again. Only if they lost. So let's have no lectures on this subject from that contention. In late August, Secretary Hillary Clinton said, quote, Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances. I think this is going to drag out, and he will win it if we don't give an inch.
okay, so
Same month, Speaker
anyway,
Pelosi and the Democrat.
all right, it goes on. I do have to sign off, but I do want you to go find it. Okay. All right. So listen, last thing. On Saturday, there is going to be a Million MAGA march in Washington, D.C. I've had some questions about that. There, somebody asked me about tickets. I want to make it clear that's free. That is not, there's no charge for that. So if you see online anywhere, anybody putting up links to get tickets for the Million MAGA March, it's a scam, because the way it works is that it starts at Freedom Plaza on Pennsylvania Avenue, which is very easy to find. And it goes all the way to the Supreme Court. So it starts at noon. And I think they're going to have speakers there, and they're going to be then marching to the Supreme Court. So just be aware of that there's no charge for that. It's a free event. I think that, there may be people who are fundraising for the event. RSBN is going to be there. So you could, I think they may be fundraising. I'm going to be there. If you want to support me, you can go to my website, marygracemedia.com, and click on support. And so, you can do that. You can support the show any way you want. I will be live streaming some, but there are no ticket sales for that event. So just be very clear about that. And the mayor of DC is playing politics. I don't know. She's saying that people have to get tested for COVID. That's nonsense. I'm not getting tested for COVID. Okay. So, yeah. So just just be aware of that. All right. So Freedom Plaza is where it starts. The march goes to the Supreme Court. I don't know the exact route. But there's no ticket sales. I'm pretty sure there's no ticket sales. Okay. Again, there may be people asking for support for their live streams and things like that. Yeah. So yeah, Brian Strzok's going to be there. So it's just, yeah, I'm like I said, I'm going to be there. Okay. So message me, info@marygracemedia.com, support the show, marygracemedia.com, marygracemedia.com, click on support, and then you can also order superfoods from me. That's the best way to stay healthy, to keep yourself sharp mentally, and to get the best source of nutrition into your home. So if you want to know more about that, or if you want to prep and stock up on healthy food that's delivered right to your door, send me a message, info@marygracemedia.com, and I will give you a voucher for your superfoods. All right, everybody have a great day. And if you sent me an email and I didn't get right back to you, it's just because I'm really busy. All right. So have a great day. Take care, everybody. Glad you were here, and just keep praying for our president and for me and my family. Have a great day.